My name is Tatiana, and I will be doing my presentation on African musical traditions. When did it start? It started late in the 18th century from slaves in the South singing spirituals while working in the fields. And over time, they started adding body movements such as the shout and echo, and making changes to the melodies, rhythms, and words to it. With these spirituals being the center of the slaves, they served as religious, cultural, social, political, and historical functions. They also brought some of West Africa's instruments like drums, banjo, zithers, and more. In the 19th century, the 19th century was the first time they got noticed and went public for making their music with the help of blackface men. I don't know how to pronounce that word. And also they had help to make their songs more popular and known. They had help from one of the instruments called the banjo, Steph Foster, and some other songwriters. These songs was also coded with escape signals or just some inappropriate stuff of their masters. After the war, the first Jubilee singers had their first toured in 1871. And in 1976, the first black musical comedy troupe was organized, and barbershops became community to the black men, like now, like how the ladies can go to the beauty shop and get their hair done and get information. That's what the barbershop did. And while this was going on, the quartet, the full group, men started singing in a 4-part harmony while waiting their turn. And as that, I got a sore throat, so don't mind me if I pause. So a little after that, the white Americans had adopted it and got recorded and sold. And African American music was part of the mainstream and culture. The 20th century. The first musical written and produced was debuted on Broadway in 1898, and this was about African Americans. The first recording black musicians was Bert Williams and George Walker, featuring music from the Broadway, was in 1901. Theodore Drury found the opera company in 1900 and helped some black artists develop in the opera field, even though he had a big white orchestra. But most leading roles went to blacks. Visual arts in the Harlem Renaissance was a part of the developments in music. Some ragtime performers who were associated with the Harlem Renaissance early civil rights activists became popular, and one of them is called Scott Joplin or Joplin. I don't know. Whites and Latinos became visible for performance for our music, for African American music, and they were African Americans were gaining a new genre in classical music, a new genre called classical music. Black people also formed their own symphony orchestras in cities like Chicago, Philadelphia, and New Orleans. The first incorporated black orchestra was in Philadelphia in 1906. We got the blues. Due to a popular rise in the blues, and early in the century, the cotton glut left most of the South desperately poor. Around this time, African music was, according to Ralph Peer, classed as race. I forgot what was race. It was more like saying, I don't know what they was saying with race. I forgot. It was something like I don't know. I'll look it up. Ma Rainey was the first performer in the first ever blues show located on Ashley Street in Jacksonville in 1916. She and Bessie Smith were the forerunners, meaning I think they were the first two to be in the show, or I don't know what they mean, what he meant when he said that. Minstrel picked up the blues and it spread up and down and all around. St. Louis was known for their shows. The males came up with simple melodies and plaintive songs. One called The Great Muddy Waters. Time to get jazzed up. Around World War I, jazz originated in New Orleans and became popular. Whites didn't really accept black performers because of genres like swing music, meaning like I think it was like a fast, I don't know, like a fast version of jazz, I don't know. A pop-based outgrowth of jazz, if y'all know what that means. Oh, excuse me. Africans were the first to create the genre jazz with masters like Jelly Roll Morton, James Johnson, Louis Armstrong, Count Bassett, and more. Smooth harmonies and teamwork are still the center of New Orleans jazz, as personified in the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. Jazz was also played from coast to coast, the continent, and became the toast of Paris. Charlie Parker brought brass to jazz with swing rhythms, saxophones, and trumpets in Kansas City. Louis Armstrong was the first jazz soloist to appear in Chicago. In New York, the jazz swing rhythms were amplified into full-scale orchestras, ushering the swing area. Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway, Dizzy G, and Count B all played at the Cotton Club which is that picture right there in Harlem, and that became the new spot. Like, you know what that means when it's the new spot. Alright, I didn't really do too much on this slide or because I didn't want to make it super long, but I did what I was supposed to do. I pulled out some of the stuff during the. Now this is all about rap, hip hop, and R&B. During on this side is, I think, rap and hip hop, and all of this is no. This is rap and hip hop. That's R&B. During the Great Migration, many Africans were moving north to cities, but were moving north, but at that time it wasn't the right move. The swing era, the sound that has a faster beat, more bass, fewer instruments, and burst onto the music world as R&B. It was also R&B was also started by Motown, I think. I don't know. Motown sound groups like the Supremes and Shy-Lights and solo stars like Ray Charles and Ella Fitzgerald. Around 1980s, poverty, crime, violence, and drugs almost tore the African community, the black community apart. This was going on. A new sound had developed and quickly spread. A lament against urban poverty and a touch chord rap was cool, but it had too much, so it's turned into hip hop and returned some instruments. Some hip hop is still raw in reflecting the hard life on the streets. The mid-century, Billboard made a separate list for the African American community, and first it was called the Harlem Hit Parade in 1942. Then they changed it to Race Records in 1945. Then they changed it again to Rhythm and Blues in 1949. By the 1940s, cover versions of their songs were commonplace, while the original musicians found success among their own audience, but not in mainstream. In 1955, Thurman Ruth persuaded a gospel group to sing in a secure cell to sing at the Apollo Theater, and with that, the gospel group had success, and they traveled around the country playing the same venues that rhythm and blues singers had popularized. In the 1940s and 1950s, African Americans were developing rhythm and blues into a new genre called rock and roll, with white musicians such as Bill Haley and the famous Elvis Presley, which was successful. And down below is a link to the evolution of music And that was all. And this is on my works cited page. Thank you for watching.